Hi and welcome. It's Chris Doughty at the SI Experience. Hope you guys are well, keeping yourselves safe. Well, today, in amongst of our next sort of suite of tools and trainings, and for everybody to understand a little bit more about property investing, and more so, learn from experience. Today, we've got a really one of the team who's Anthony De Vries. So we're very excited to have Anthony. And today's topic is going to be about areas. It's going to be about how to assess those areas. So I'm going to bring Anthony in. Anthony,
hey Chris,
how are you?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, really good. And as I say, we're just trying to build the audience nicely. We've already got some comments. David, hi everybody. Hi everybody, David. Thanks for joining us, etc. So good to have him on. So Anthony, Anthony, I've been working, for a long time together, and I think one of the things I wanted to bring all you guys, all the investors, etc., is really start getting into, how things are done, and more importantly, how. Oh, we've got somebody else, and more importantly, is how it's done, but how can you leverage the understanding in order to mitigate your risk, in order to really, from my side, when dealing with mentees and investors and clients alike, is really what tools do I have at my disposal, but more importantly, how do I actually execute with that? So today we're going to ask Anthony a few hard questions. We've got some great, there's a lot of love out for you, Anthony, today, which is really good.
Hi,
so thanks, Tim. So as I say, everybody, please ask questions at any time. So again, for everybody, if you don't want to ask the questions here direct live, please go to the Sourcing Investments Clinic, which is sourcinginvestments.co.uk/promo/clinic. And you can ask any question in confidence. Yes, it is on the below screen. You can ask anything in confidence. It can be anything on property related questions, investor questions, financing questions. We've got the entire team to support you on that, and we will get back to you in due course, or we can just do it live now. So please don't hang about with any questions today. So let's sort of, again, we've got loads more comments. Hey, Henrik, brilliant. So we're going to give this to everybody. We've got greetings from Hong Kong. So we've got the whole worldwide, already here. So Anthony, so as I say, we're going to get into it today. And really the first question, and as I say, the topic of this is really how, and utilizing our experiences, how can investors, quickly, and again, I challenge anything that we say here, and effectively assess an area to invest in, and that's really the topic of today, and we will go through it, and we've sort of broken it out, but really, here to grill Anthony and myself, and really say, from our experience, ourselves as investors, I invest in multiple areas. Our clients are investing all over the country as well, and so we really want to get into some commonalities of really asking the simple basic questions, because I think the simpler question, the more it appeals to a lot of people. So Anthony, from your side, and again sort of high level, what are the three most common mistakes investors do when assessing areas?
Yeah. It's a very good question, Chris. And these things often come up. The three main things that I found in all my investing career so far is emotionally. So people are looking to invest emotionally. So looking at an area maybe with an emotion. Either they had a friend there before, or it's a favorite football team playing out there. Things like that. So they're looking at it from that point of view, rather than looking at the numbers and the stats surrounding those properties. So emotionally is probably one of the most common ones I see come up.
And when you talk about emotion, again, I can. Is that really because investors relate back to their, I guess, from their side, the not knowing? So therefore, if they don't know, they don't have the data, they don't know how to assess that data, or really combine that data with strategies and understanding demographic and demand. Do people result into that emotion because of that first bit they don't have?
Very much so, and this is the part. They're excited to get involved. They want to do property investing, and then they go ask their friends who don't invest in property, and they say, "Oh, my friend says you should invest in Manchester, or Liverpool, or somewhere else." But it's not based on any other factual reasons, but someone referred them to that place without any real, concrete evidence behind it all.
So again, it's a real challenge, for us, and we've been there. I mean, I remember, again, it's for me. It's having the tools, but more importantly, the support on how to apply those tools. So you can be taught anything, but then again,
Yep.
how do you then apply it in a real world environment? And I think that is where I think a lot of people get fearful because they think they have to do it by themselves. And,
Yes.
and I think also, like you said, that emotion gets so highly involved when in actual fact investing should be really, yes, it's about passion, but at the end of the day, emotion really should be taken out of it when making decisions. And so therefore that actually, contrasts with the effectiveness of investing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, very true. And it's so what we try and do is we say, come on board, let's talk about things and let's look at it as factually. So we'll take the emotions all away because we're looking at a business and the business revolves on numbers, which we'll talk about a bit later in more detail. But that's probably the most important thing to always remember.
So if these were the three most common, one is emotional for sure,
Yeah.
and the second piece for me would be very much around they look for an area first.
Yes.
And where should I invest? Where should I invest? Well, that quick question really should be more along the lines of what's your strategy? What is your finance position? Yourself from a capital position. What options from a creative financing structure have you got available to you? What area can you afford? I mean, it's very, it sounds very logical, but if you've only got £50,000, you're genuinely not going to be investing, inside the M25 in London, typically. So from your side, if I came to you as as an investor, I said, "Where do I invest, Anthony?" What's your response?
Yeah, well, you're so right. So many people come with an area and say, "I've done my research on the area." And what we're going to look at. And then I always say to them, okay, forget about the area for now. We're going to look at the numbers in different areas, right? We're going to be focusing on that, not on a particular area for first. We have to also look at what your seed capital is. How much money do you have available to spend? Like Chris just said, M25, you're not going to be able to afford it. What's your long-term gain or goal here? Are you trying to get money out of your country like a lot of South Africans are doing? So you may want to then look at buying things cash. But if you want to leverage it, we have to consider those different areas because some things can't be leveraged as much or you can't get very good loan to values on it. So all those things have to be considered as we go ahead. And then deciding initially on your area is an old term or old school thinking. And when I and Chris went through the program, we were told, find your area, build your team, do all these great things. I don't tell my students that anymore. My students bought more properties because they don't look at a particular area, right? So you'll find your area, your team will be around there. The platform creates that for you. Chris and I didn't have that platform in place. So we had to find an area and then build the team, didn't we, right? And you didn't move out of that area because you had your team. You trusted that builder and you worked with the guys. Now you can choose anywhere in the UK with a sourcing investments team, right? And have a building team ready to execute. So actually you're in a much better position than we were, because you can diversify all over the UK, which I think is a much better play, isn't it?
And, so being taught, I mean, the third thing, so we've covered the first two, which is the emotional side of it. And then, from my side, don't look at the area first. Does that make sense? Look at yourself first and what you want to do. And I think, the third thing, and please comment on this, is really investing is for the long term. And I think the emotion kicks in because people want this urgency of understanding, which at the end of the day comes through some hard work, as in being taught how to analyze an area, how to work out demands, etc. More important, understand the information. But my kind of play is that, you've got to, if you're going to be doing this for the long term, for long-term wealth gain, and more importantly, you need to spend some time. You need to spend some time. And people, I think, for example, if you're going to be spending the next 10 years or 20 years investing in property and getting the long-term gain from property, then they've got to sit down and do some analysis. So if you're going to be in it for 10 years, why would you not spend 3 days a week, in an extreme, situation of sitting down and understanding the area that you're looking at, more importantly, relative to the property you're about to buy? Why would you not spend that time? I think people just want a shortcut.
I know, but what I find really strange, Chris, is if you look at most people and ask them, where are you going next year, right? They'll have an idea in their mind and they would have started researching. They would have looked at all the websites and decided, I'm going to this place, right? They spend hours doing that, but then they go in and they go, I'm going to buy that property. And they just buy it because it looks good. Why? This is a much longer term play here. You're going to come back from holiday either with a suntan and maybe some photographs, right? But no money coming in every single month. You buy a property, you got a property for life. So spend more time researching that property. And I think that's crucial. I mean, I remember one of my first deals that I did was we'd analyzed it so well. Well, we being Cindy and myself, so well that when the message came through, it was still the old days, it came in on a text message about a property for sale. I knew what that property should sell for. I knew what the rental should be without even doing any research, because the research was done beforehand. So putting an offer in was quick and easy because I knew what the result would be at the end of it all. Now, don't get me wrong, you'll still panic and then go double check your figures. That's fine, but you need to know beforehand. Otherwise, if you're doing research while the deals are coming through, you're going to miss out and someone else is going to take it from you. That's the short end of it.
Yeah. And again, spending that time, you get the skills, which is more importantly, but actually apply those skills and don't just go back and for me, then just expect somebody else to do it, because at the end of the day, the responsibility, and this is something that we say not to diversify the responsibility here, because if you've got long-term support, that responsibility from a mentor is that long-term support, which we do here, over a year, if not longer. I was just before this call talking with two mentees, not even my mentees, somebody else's, and they went through their training 3.5 years ago, and yet we're having a call this morning with regard to a deal that they're looking at, and more importantly thinking of executing up in the northeast. So 3.5 years, and it's not even my mentees as such. So again, that support structure is so important. So I think just to summarize those three areas, it's the emotion, it's people look for the area first, and then more importantly, they don't necessarily apply what they've learned, as in the due diligence, the assessment. They just want the quick put it into a spreadsheet, but in actual fact, we'll show something shortly, which I think really highlights the depths that you can get into, which really means more understanding, mitigating risk, and make sure you've got multiple backup plans around that investment. And if you do those three things, you're going to be in a pretty decent position to be able to make a decision.
Yes, definitely.
So I think that was really good, and I think overall, what we want to be asking is a question. Is there a perfect area to invest in?
Okay, get your pens ready. No, no, there isn't a perfect area to invest in. But the question is why? Why are we saying that? Well, because it depends a lot on you and your strategy. Now, we talk about strategy a lot of times, and you have to get that clear. Are you looking at just going safely with a buy-to-let? Do you want an HMO? Do you want to do a flip? All those things. How much money do you have to spend? So all the things. It's a much more complex discussion. We probably should do another webinar on that too, on how you get your strategy together. But once you define that, then it's choosing the area that suits that strategy. So many times I've seen people invest in an area because they want to get finance on it later on to leverage it all, just to find out that the loan to values are too low and they're leaving far too much money in the deal. Now, they should have known that beforehand. You don't find that out afterwards. You know all those information beforehand, before you purchase. So important.
So again, so there is no perfect area to invest, and I think that's the beauty in it. And I think the beauty in it is if there was one perfect place to invest, then everybody'd be in it, and then there's no real opportunities there. Yeah. And again, I think that foresight is everybody's looking for somebody else to sort of tell them what it is, when in actual fact, genuinely, there is the process, which again we sort of teach and when we train, of narrowing down relative to your scenario, relative to your situation, relative to how aggressive you want to be, relative to your funds available, relative to your risk appetite, which actually is a process and a journey that we teach in itself to work out which areas will lend itself to what you want to achieve. And I think that's the key. It's not just here's an area, it's let's go through a process and be taught that on how to go through it yourself.
Yes. And so for us, when we do our training, whether it's online training or in the classroom, it's looking at all these different deals and properties and then analyzing it together and looking at the different strategies you can apply to those, because some of them do have multiple strategies that can be applied to them and others don't. And then going through that process, we then highlight what you know and what you don't know. And I think that's crucial, because for most of us, you don't always know what you don't know. I mean, we all know that term. And I'm the same. When I'm ever in a new situation, I'm learning, you want to have that debate, have the conversation with the person and confirm things as well.
Correct. And again, like you said, we don't know it all. And that's why, again, for me, that long-term support is absolutely crucial. And again, I don't know it all, you don't know it all. And if we are doing something new, then guess what? I'm going to damn well find somebody to be able to, at least, ping some ideas off, discuss my personal situation in order to give me that confidence of moving forward. Because at the end of the day, this is not by yourself, not by a long way.
Exactly. And that's what's great about having the community. Sorry, Chris. And I mean, there's some people on the call today, which is also 3-4 years, my mentees, and we're still in touch. And sometimes the chat or the catch up is not even about property; it's just about life and things that have happened in your life. And that's the beauty of having this property family, if you want to call it that. So someone else has invested in an area, I'm in Scotland, and they're having problem refinancing. You can go back to them and say, what did you do? What were the obstacles you overcame? And that's the nice thing. We can help each other along. It's brilliant.
So so there is no perfect area, and I think that's a really good thing to sort of ask for. And again, guys on who are live, brilliant. Give us a shout, please. Any questions? We just had one question, which was like, who pays for the yard or mowing the lawn? And thank you, David. David's actually already responded to the other investor, so it depends on his contract with the tenant. So again, thank you. This is about the community. It's not just about myself or Anthony knowing everything under the sun. It's about us helping each other. So thank you, David, for responding to the original question, which is great. So you are correct. It should be clarified with the contract. It may be something that you want to, for example, with students, you might want to be adding a little bit more onto the monthly rental in order to pay for a gardener. So you're taking that sort of process away from them. But actually, with a normal, typical buy-to-let here in the UK, typically, if it's a single-family let or something of the sort, then they are responsible for the maintenance of the property and if there's any gardens and stuff like that. But again, in the reality of it all, are there other ways, more than ways than one to skin a cat? Which, for example, you could increase the rent slightly, or you could even from their perspective, actually agree it once the rent is agreed. You say, well, actual fact, we will take that responsibility away from you, but it's going to cost you an extra sort of, £30 a month or something. So again, it doesn't affect the person coming in with regard to having a higher rental figure, but you agree after, because in actual fact, people in this day and age want less hassle. And I think if it's propositioned to them in the right way, less hassle, you can take that pain away from them with the right contractors. So thank you for those questions. Keep them coming. So really, again, we talked about, is there a perfect area? The answer is no. We've got, emotion comes into it. And I think one of the things that I've, heard you talk about, very clearly when we do training, mentoring, etc., is this philosophy of yourselves, which again, I really like. And what you described earlier was you couldn't do this as effectively before, and again, this is not a big heads up, but before sourcing investments, because giving that line of sight to, I think now we have 37 sourcing agents around the country, and in actual fact, in the last sort of week, we've sold 6 deals, we've had about 10 offers, etc. So the market is still there, which is really good, even in this situation. But what we're just about to talk about is what is your philosophy of follow the numbers, and why didn't that apply previously? Now we can stand here and say, well, that you can test this for philosophy and what it is, and this is something that genuinely, it's only come about because of what we've got with sourcing investments and the ability to operationally execute. So please describe to everybody, what is follow the numbers philosophy, that you teach your clients?
Yeah, so follow the numbers came out of me seeing my students getting stuck, right? So what I found is that we were coming through, they had chosen their area for the reasons we mentioned beforehand, and now they were trying to find the deal in that area to work. So they're trying to make that area work for those deals. And I was watching a program, CSI, and I remember Gritham saying there that the evidence never lies. And it just, well, that's it. We should look at the numbers. The evidence doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. So if we apply that principle to property investing, we're in a much better position. So that's when I started changing my way of teaching. So I would say to people, and the guys on the call will probably remember me saying that to them. They would say, oh, what area should I look at? I said, forget about the area. We're going to look at that later. We're going to look at the numbers first. So firstly, you're looking at deciding what strategy you're looking at. So we'll look at that and we'll decide, you're looking at multi-lets, you're looking at buy-to-lets, mini HMOs, whatever they may be. So in this example, we're going to choose buy-to-lets. Great. So we know we're looking for buy-to-lets. Now you go to the platform. At the platform, you can select buy-to-let properties. So select all those properties on the buy-to-let and start analyzing those numbers. So this is what we call run the numbers. You're going to go through that deal sheet and work it all the way down to how much you need to get into the property. So how much money is needed to buy it? Because it's not just a deposit, guys, right? You need to pay for the sourcing fee. You need to pay for the survey fee, for the refurb if there is any. So all those costs have to come into play. What you don't want to do is get halfway down a deal and realize you don't have enough money. So again, how much money is needed in that deal? You get that done first. If you're thinking of financing, perfectly. Afterwards, you put some finance on it, get some money back out again. How much will depend on how you structured that deal and how much refurb you did. So we can discuss all that, but you'll know how much is needed to get in the deal, and then how much money is needed, is left in the deal afterwards. Great. So now you have that there, and then you work out your return on investment, your ROI, and we all know how to do that, don't we? We'll maybe choose some live students to tell us that in a second. So you have your return on investment. So that then is a way of measuring how well that works. I normally add in also how many years to get your money back out again. So if you kept that passive income coming through, how many years to pay that out? And again, it's a measuring tool that we have there, right? So you run the numbers. Now you continue doing that on multiple properties, using the website, using the platform all the time in different areas. Don't even look at the area. I mean, even one of the tech team took that area away from that, so that people weren't just focusing on the areas because of what I said. So you look at those multiple places and then start putting it in groups of yes, I would like to buy these, maybes, they're somewhere in between what you want, and no's, definitely don't want to do it for it's too much money in the deal, the return on investment's not good enough. Different reasons for why you don't want to buy it. Now you've got those 3 piles. Move the 2 piles to the one side and look at the pile that is yes. Right? Start looking at those again and seeing, is there a common link? Is there a common region, common area coming up? Right? Is it Folkestone that's coming up more regularly now? Fine. Now Folkestone is your first target area. So now what you do is you go back into Folkestone and you start analyzing everything about Folkestone. You should know what a 1-bedroom flat is in Folkestone, what a LH rate will be for a 2-bedroom flat, what a bedroom will be with an ensuite. Everything you should know about that place, right? Because when the next deal comes through from a sourcing investment sourcer and arrives on your desktop and you open it up, you know those numbers make sense because you've done the research beforehand. That's what we need to do. Yeah. And That's it in a nutshell.
And I think, again, this is just something that's come about because to be able to look at live deals, which is obviously then a reflection of what the market is, currently at that moment in time, really allows you to do this. And I think, when you talk about the areas, it won't necessarily just point to one area, but it will come about where, for example, the types of property in 2 areas actually have a similar kind of strategy. So, for example, the Northeast, is particularly, on a buy-to-let, sub £75,000, with a very sort of, social orientated play with regard to blue-collared workers. And that actually, in my mind, represents a very similar demographic in, a lot of areas in Glasgow, for example. So although they're in actual fact, technically, separate countries, the areas and the dynamic of those areas actually are very similar. So in actual fact, the 2 areas relative to analysing that those deals work, that you like the sort of lower end sub sort of 75 down to even sort of less than 25,000 properties, and that's your strategy that works. You actually have 2 areas that those work more likely for in those 2 areas. So again, it's not just about what is the area and start there. You can go the opposite way, and I think that's a really good interesting different philosophy, and that has come about by actually having the ability to live analyze deals consistently in volume with the SI platform. And I think it's really, really good to sort of see that even teaching methodology has changed off the back of our technology that we've built for people. Yeah.
I mean, and the great thing is if you can analyze a deal really well, it will help you throughout your whole investing career. No matter what happens in England, what happens after this virus, we don't know what's going to happen. But if you stick to that fundamental thing of following the numbers, taking the emotions out of it all, you'll always stay on track. So if the one area starts diversifying or going in a different direction, you keep looking at the numbers and go, okay, area number 2 has now taken over area number 1. So I'm going to start investing there, right? And we may find that some areas, like Chris was saying, are very similar. I guess then we look at, okay, out of those 2, I'll buy this one first, and then next time I'll buy the other one. And then see how your working relationship works with the estate agents and with the sourcing agents. So if you have a better relationship with that sourcing agent, well, you can go back to that area. We understand people buy from people. But the first and fundamental point of how you chose that area came from numbers. The numbers never lie.
Yeah. And what I'm going to show everybody here, which is now, and I think that's brilliant, honestly. But what I really want to show everybody, which I'm just going to bring into the screen now, this was a full detailed, some of you may have seen it previously, but we did a very detailed private webinar for 65 people who turned up and this was it. And I'm just going to, quickly, go over what it was. This was 3 mentors. So myself, Adam, Mark Haynes, and sourcing agent Dan Stafford, who was from Manchester, really going through the analysis of a deal. So that was a screenshot of what we were doing. And this was just in the space of probably, we did a live analysis, and it was probably a space of about 35 minutes. It was a 2-hour webinar. You are able to see this webinar, but you have to go into the Sourcing Investments platform itself. It will be in an area that only certain people have access to, and I will have sending out more details if you're interested in that. It's actually some really, really valuable webinar that was private. And as I say, I think from my side that, it's something that actually technically we're not just going to give out for free, because it was highly interesting. But if you can see on the screen here, what we've got is, this is the analysis of a deal, which was a commercial unit turning into 3 residential studios. And this is the kind of data points. And this, again, is just giving you an impression of what we did in 35 minutes. Now, if you gave us 3 days, it would be a very, very much, in much more detailed discussion. But we're talking about demographics, we're talking about professional working, service accommodation as a separate strategy, that is a secondary backup, rental analysis, what is the break-even point? We were looking at typical yields in the area. We were looking at market analysis of 5-year price growth. Is it an area that we want to be in the long term as a secondary sort of backup to our primary strategy, which was service accommodation right in the centre of Manchester? We were looking at average days to sell. So this was a lot of discussion. You won't just see what the answer is just based off, for example, this information I'm showing you here. This was including looking at, potential sites that were coming on with planning, and there was over 600 units, 700 flats about to pop up in the area. And was that going to actually compete against the studio or studios that we were going to create or not? And again, this is the detail and the advanced analysis. And again, everybody can do it. It is a process. And the more you do it and the more people you have who have experience of doing this to support you, really gives you an edge. And I cannot emphasize it enough. This is not just talk, it's real. And so this webinar will be available. And so please, I would like everybody who is interested in seeing that webinar, we will put it again up and we'll do a replay of it. We'll send it out. So I think we've got about nearly 30 people on the call right now. Obviously, people watch this in their own time. Please go into the SI Deal Clinic, which again, I will put up now. And if you are interested in it, please just ask, so here's the clinic, and just ask that, any questions around this analysis. And if it's appropriate, we will send this to you directly. And again, it's a 2-hour webinar with a lot of detail in it. And I think a lot of the people who was on there, we had 3 people immediately within sort of 20 minutes sign up for a long-term mentoring program. So it kind of showed that really from our side, this isn't just talk. It is using hot technology, it's getting into the detail, and it's showing people the methodology on how to do it, because this is a long-term play. So I just really wanted to show that to everybody. So hopefully that is useful, very, very useful, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're trying to, highlight. Otherwise we'd be here for 3 hours again. And again, so all I can highlight to people is, area is one thing, but really everything that goes around it. The support, the data, the mitigation of risk through understanding. And again, and talking with people like us who've done it. And not just saying that we've done it, but, how to mitigate some problems that we've had in the past, or not 100% success rate. But if I could do, 80, the high 80s, 90%, and also give the learnings that, I've managed to bulldoze through to people, then that just really, really helps. So again, with people, area, discussion, again, there's a lot more to it, as highlighted by that. So
definitely.
We've got some comments here, Anthony. We've just had another one. David McFlurry, here we go. Indeed, it was a very good webinar. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
You were one of the guys. And really, it was just highlighting to people, that wasn't the full analysis by a long way, but it kind of shows you, from a professional aspect, we didn't even touch the sides really, and it was only 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But thanks for that, David. Really appreciate it. So we've got some questions from the SI Clinic, and people have been doing this, and again, it's sort of appropriate to now, which is, so we've got one here from YC. He goes, I've heard that there are guaranteed rental schemes available in all areas of the UK. Is this true? And I think, this is something that, annoyingly, from what I hear and what I've seen, is training companies state this to try and give people a long-term confidence, when in actual fact, what's the answer to this, Anthony?
Yeah, unfortunately not. It's not all over the UK. There are guaranteed rent schemes in place. And this is where you have, again, be very careful and do your numbers checks. If you're running the numbers again, so with your research, while running the numbers and checking things, you'll find that certain areas do have guaranteed rents. And it depends from council to council. And some of them are there now and then gone tomorrow. So where I was investing initially, there was a lot of guaranteed rent for families in that particular area. But then that funding stopped, so that didn't continue anymore. You hear it a lot in Scotland as well. But then again, you'll have to work with certain sourcing agents and certain letting agents in order to get a guaranteed scheme from that particular place. So, Southeast London, a few of those have been having a lot of those schemes. It also depends a lot on the council. If the council has a lot of stock, like in Hull, they've got a lot of stock, they don't offer guaranteed rents because they have their own stock and there's too much. So demand and supply often plays a key role in whether it's guaranteed schemes or not. But they're still out there. So if you do more research, you might find something that another investor hasn't found.
Yeah.
And a good example there is one of the first flats I bought in Southeast London. Now, Southeast London was typically a much more expensive area that I was purchasing compared to Hull. So the idea of having guaranteed rent was more appealing to me. But I found by going to the local housing allowance, we were able to get a better rate. We were getting £150 more per month by going to the LHA rate, right? Now, most people say, no, you don't get paid more with LHA. Well, look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. But the difference was it wasn't guaranteed. But what they did do, they paid you 2 months deposit, right? And made sure they got you a tenant. So, look at those different aspects. If you do the analysis, you'll find some great aspects out there where the UK government and the councils are helping you. And you decide then if you want to go guaranteed rent, do so. Normally it's a 3-5 year plan. And you then sign a document and they will then take over the rent from you. I guess the key question to ask, sorry, Chris, because people get confused between local housing benefits and receiving money from the council. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. So the question you have to ask yourself is the tenant the council? If the tenant's not the council, it's not guaranteed, right? Yeah. So make sure you clarify that beforehand. So many people say to me, oh no, it's benefits, it's guaranteed. If that person starts working, the rent stops. If they leave, the rent stops. Trust me. I had a letting agent for a few years. And, tenants are not all knowing and they think they're going to get X, Y, Z of money and they don't because they're a single white male. You get a certain amount of money. So that's another discussion for another time. But yeah, so really do those numbers.
So, again, with anybody with these kind of questions, please go to, again, I keep pointing out, any of these questions that doesn't necessarily need to be live, go to the SI Clinic, ask us. And more importantly, we're going to find out, we're going to get back to you. So please, as I say, sourceinvestments.co.uk/promo/clinic and just ask the question. I think we had over, sort of 20 questions last week, which is really, really good. So please keep that up, everybody. So we've got another question. We have Steph from Hong Kong. I'm finding it hard to make a decision on an area I should invest in. What should I do? Watch this webinar.
Yes, I think so. I think we've answered the decision there. I think, it's bringing all those tools together. I think what I often tell my students is write a list down. Write a list of what you have available. So what's your seed capital? What is cash you have available? Secondly, where can you get more money from, right? So if it can be from a loan, from a friend, whatever it may be. So write that down. Then speak to your broker, your independent broker, and see what kind of, finance you can get. Because all those things are important. What loan to value you're going to get. And then you run through those numbers because you can't decide on an area unless you've looked at that whole aspect, everything else. I mean, I had a friend come up to me and say, I'm going to invest down in Folkestone at the time. It's a great return. And I'm like, how much money to get in? I'm not really sure. I'm like, well, you can't even say that then. Until you know how much money you need to get into that deal, there's no point even looking any further because you need 200,000 plus if you're down in the Folkestone area. So you have to know what you have available. So for me, it's my toolkit. My toolkit tells me where I can go and how often I can go to that particular area. What seed capital, what lending I have available. Work that out first, and then it'll be a much easier way of making a decision on what area. If you're still struggling, Steph, my decision would be, or suggestion would be, is look at doing a positive and negative, right? And by doing that by analysis. So you're doing your return on investment, your how many years to get the money back again. Write all those things down, and then start looking at what is similar, scratching it out until you finally get, okay, this area is better for me, because you might be lower risk. So you're going to fix your interest rates, and you're going to go on a guaranteed rent scheme and leave it for 5 years and not worry about it. Well, that's perfect for you then, so that you can go with that. Someone might say they want me to have a more return on investment. Fine. But look at those things and make calls based on facts rather than emotion again.
Again, really I can't highlight that enough, Anthony. It's and again, Steph, we're always here for questions. And again, if you really wanted to sort of, from yourself, really take it, to the next level to understand it and take that responsibility for yourself, and what and how you can make decisions, then obviously we're here to support that, and with the training programs. And I think, one of the things I visually wanted to point out is and again, we're going to link this in. So let me just get, we've got other questions coming in. Hang on. We've got a special question from David. David said, so David, property data, there is a referral that we will send you, which is really good. But again, the key thing is with it, mate, is it data tells you one thing, the interpretation of that data is something else. And that's where I really wish just data straight from say, and propertydata.co.uk is a really good tool. I very much know the owner of it. He's a very good guy, and obviously trying to provide a tool for people to utilize, and property investors. So yes, that is available through the SI platform. So I will send you that personally, David. But as I say, it will be wider referral, the ability to go into the research areas, and it's going to be in there as well. What I really wanted to point out to everybody here is now is why are people struggling with this ability to from my side, why are they struggling? And I think, what is the difference that we are here? When we talk about it, and this is a frustration that was, something that inherently, was built, SI was built to solve the operational execution for line of sight to potential opportunities for investors investing from anywhere in the world, with the ability to set up their companies, to set up their bank accounts, to set up all of their power team members, all with the ability for them to have choice within a framework. So they can make the decisions, and more importantly, have the ability to have somebody where everybody's transparent. Now, the tools and stuff that we've now provided are there, and this what we're showing here is, for me, really where the issue starts. So investor training companies who are currently out there, and I'm sure we've all heard of a few, really do training. And this is where, for example, from my side, what then happens off the back of that? The training is the training, so what? The amount of stories we have of people turning around and saying no support afterwards, not sure how to apply their knowledge. They get into confusion. They then have to get into the emotional side of, from their side, blindly trusting third parties, builders, not understanding how to set up a building contract, etc. Understanding source of contracts and what their responsibility of making decisions are. And more importantly, it leads to a high risk environment and sadly, disappointment. And that's where the lacking is, the execution investing and long-term support. And this is where we've solved that, and now we've worked backwards. So from a training and mentoring perspective, we now provide that, and have been providing that for a couple of years now, to really say we've solved the execution. Now we're going to teach people how to genuinely execute. And more importantly for me is that long-term play. We are here for the long term. We're not going anywhere. Your mentors are accountable to you. You have a system and a team around that platform, which again is another level of support. And this is what this graphic here is really saying. We now provide the complete start to end genuine product, not just training, not just saying. We've been doing the operational execution piece for 5.5 years now. And now the training is designed to teach people how to operate. It's not just beyond the system. You can go and take what we teach you and do it anywhere in the world. But the key thing is we are there to long-term support you investing here into the UK. And another good excitement is we're going to be able to offer the USA as a launch in next quarter. So we're going to be able to offer USA properties with some great USA sourcing agents. So again, for people in Asia who love that, again, SI is going to be able to invest in the USA and the UK. But again, the same principles investing are taught, and that support is around you. And from your side, Anthony, if you want to sort of give I've just seen a great comment from David McFlurry. I'm not sure if I can put that up, David, but it will remain in the comments. Do you know what? Look, I'm not going to hide. David, brilliant. So I was talking about the training and people being abandoned, and this is. I think I'm going to be cheeky. No comment, David. You said it, but love the support. So again, I love that. But yeah, let's be real. From my perspective, if you don't know how to operationally execute, you can't teach.
Yeah,
and that's the point, and that's what we facilitate with our investors. So I hope people are seeing that. So any comments from your side, Anthony?
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris and I we used to have lots of discussions. I mean, in the early days when Chris was still working on SI and we were sitting in the pub, because that's a great place to obviously brainstorm with a couple of pints. I think that often came up because I was very passionate about it. Chris was moving on to SI, and for me, it was always a long-term relationship. A lot of companies, like Chris is saying, and would offer 30 days, and realistically, you're not going to buy a property in those 30 days. And even if you are, with the England and how long things take, 6 to 8 weeks later, you're only getting the property down. So for me, it was definitely a long-term play. And so for most of my students, they all know they can reach out whenever they want, and I'll be there to help them, subject to me being involved. If I'm mentoring, of course, then I can't, because I'm obviously focusing on that person at the time. But with WhatsApp and modern technology, it's a great way just to catch up. Drop a line to your mentor. They can then send you a voicemail back again. And I find if it's a bit more complex, then maybe it would be a quick call, 5-minute quick call while I'm sitting at the beach with my kids and kind of catching up. Like most of you know, I've moved to South Africa, but the communication hasn't stopped, and that's the beauty of the modern technology. We're going to be here to support you. I find students phoning me up and just running through the numbers, and I'm like, so why aren't you buying it? And they all they wanted is someone else just to have a quick read through and confirm what they already knew. They were doing it all correct. It's not that I'm finding any mistakes whatsoever. You guys know how to do it. You just need that some person just to give you that bit of a cuddle or maybe a kick and say, come on, just snap out of it and do it. Just step forward and take action.
It's our online mentoring program. So if you are interested in that, please go to the homepage, check out the online mentoring program. You can see all of the videos of the mentors. You can see behind the scenes. You can even see some funnies of the outtakes to actually show we are real people. And I think for anybody on this call or for any time, we will send the webinar out, which was the 2-hour. If you are interested in that, please. Contact us or put a comment in the if you're in Facebook, put a comment in it now, or if you're on YouTube, put a comment in there, and we will put your email address, and we will send it to you directly. Or if you really want to, if you're already part of the SI family, please contact our team, because again, it's something that I'm not going to spread out to the world. It's something that really only valuable people, as in part of the SI family. So again, you can go and do a free trial. Come on in. Please take a look at it at any time. And as I say, we will then let you have that, because we think it's very, very valuable. So we just got one comment here. And again, sort of that I talk about that webinar. Thanks, Tim. Extremely valuable. Yes, it was good. And again, that's just a tiny little snippet of what happens on a mentorship and with the team around you. So again, the online piece, we do it in groups now with 2 mentors. And again, we're just changing this space. And realistically, as again, the mentorship is not something to be scared of. Please go and take a look at it. It's very, very reasonably priced. And more importantly, you get 2 mentors for the price of 1. And more importantly, you get a full year's support around it. So please take a look at that. We've got one more live question, which has come up from Facebook user Anthony. So this is one for us off the cuff. If you have limited capital for refurb, will you then do all the refurbs needed, but do it cheaply? Or will you leave 1 or 2 rooms, I guess, don't touch them, and instead do a high quality refurb on the other rooms and wait 6 to 12 months, refinance, and then refurb the rooms not done in the beginning?
Yeah, very good question. I assume you're obviously looking then at a multi-let with that one HMO, if you're leaving the rooms to one side. So again, the research is important. You need to be able to have your HMO, or even if it's a buy-to-let, in a very similar standard or better than everybody else's. I think the old thought of magnolia walls and white cupboards. You remember those in beige carpets, Chris? That everybody used to tell us.
EMW, I think, was the acronym.
I think, it's really old school mentality. The thing is, just because you're a tenant or you're renting something doesn't mean you want your friends to know about it. the thing I found strange in the UK, people don't really talk about finance in the UK, and they don't talk about ownership much either. Where in South Africa, it's very much, did you buy it? You know, just straight in your face. So a lot of time, tenants want to be able to bring their friends home to a place that feels like home. So having a higher quality is more important. But again, it'll depend on your area. You don't want to put granite tops in Scotland, as in the lower areas of Scotland. It'll probably cost you more than the property that you're buying. I'm sorry, Scotland. However, if you're in Edinburgh or somewhere else, then yes. But if you're in Richmond, most definitely you want it in your granite tops or your marble tops. So it depends on your location, very much so. But I think what you're thinking there is a great strategy. I did that in my early career so many times, where limited budget, so you get a nice kitchen done, you refurb 1 or 2 of the bedrooms, you close the other ones off, and then you refurb as you get more money. Definitely a very good play. Just make sure that the most important things are done. Your smoke alarms, your wiring, all those things have to be done. Those things you can't take a shortcut on at all. So those things definitely have to be done. And then look around too. If you've got limited refurb, there's some more sourcing investment sources bringing on already made HMOs or second-hand HMOs as such. Those are great ones to buy. And as people move out, then renovating them afterwards. So renovating the rooms as people move out. So that's what I would do, Chris.
And again, just pointing out on this here, this is an example like I had to hand, which is one of our mentors, Mark, who buys properties up in the Manchester area and Greater Manchester area, I should point out. And as I say, he's got a 5-bedder that's focused on very much for high-end professionals, and then the one on the left-hand side is a little bit more basic, and you can kind of see the differences. It's a little bit more basic, and that's for students on a 3-bed let. So again, you're talking about, if you'd said to me that, from an HMO perspective, would this kind of level of quality be done, 10 years ago? Absolutely not. It was pack 'em, stack 'em and rack 'em. But I think now really that expectancy of having a decent quality product, and it doesn't necessarily have to be super high end. Does that make sense? It's just a little bit of thought around it. Again, think of your demographic. Think of, what if you were them, what would it be? Not that your own personal residential living environment, but I'm talking about what would they, how are you going to be a USP better than the local area? And then that allows you, when you combine that with a good location, you can then have long-term demand for your product, and therefore that makes it a long-term successful investment. But again, just thought I'd show that. So I think, so I thought that would be helpful. But thank you so much. I think unless there's any more questions, which we actually got about 3 more. But we're going to have to call it a day. We said it was going to be half an hour. We're already at 47 minutes, and hopefully people have found it really, really valuable. At the end of the day with everything, thank you so much, everybody, for your questions. Really, really appreciate it. Again, please spread the word. If you've got anybody who's interested in this kind of sort of discussions, please have a look at, join the Facebook group, which is the SI Family Group. Yes, it is below. Free trials are available. So again, for people who don't know who SI is, come and have a free trial, see what the platform is. We've got something very, very powerful under the hood. And more importantly, now with the training and mentoring support, if a very reasonable price point, which is just below £3,900, and that's for a year's mentorship. Again, it's a whole different ball game. It's about quality, it's about delivery, and it's about long-term support and success. And that's what we hopefully exude here. And I think a lot of our clients are very proud of them coming through us, and we're very proud of them. So no, thank you so much, everybody. Again, don't forget the clinic. Anthony, thank you so much, my friend, as always, mate. And any questions for people, please, give us a shout. David, very active today. Thank you so much. No, thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks, David. I just want to shout out to everybody as well. I just want to say thank you for your comments and messaging. It's great for Chris and I to know. I mean, he can see the screen, but to know that you guys are listening and actually asking questions. I'm sitting alone now. The kids are doing homeschooling in another house, so I'm all on my own here with no audience. So it's great to see your comments again, David. Thank you for that, Henrik, and from Hong Kong and all over the world for tuning in and listening to us. So I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much. We'll be here on Thursday. We will be talking with a gentleman from Hong Kong who will be discussing his direct experiences, investing here in the UK. Also with many clients as well, and that's why he's now actually with us, joining SI, and more importantly sees the power of what we've got. So again, that will be very interesting. So please join us on Thursday, 1 o'clock. That's UK time. So thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you so much, everybody. And we're getting loads of comments. I really want to get them all in. Everybody saying thank you so much. Oh, here we go. Quick shout out from Jim and Leo in Melbourne. Again, well, this is a worldwide.
Hey, mate, yeah.
You guys are staying up late, so thank you so much. We spread the
appreciate
word
it, guys.
and forward the video on to anybody, because, as I say, this is about growing the family. Please be part of it. Thank you so much, and Henrik as well. Your pleasure, Henrik.
Thanks, Henrik.
So please, guys, spread the word. Love you loads, and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Thank you so much.